Good morning, mathematicians. Today we'll be doing lesson 9.8, multiplication of decimals. The objective for today's lesson is to introduce multiplication of decimals by whole numbers and to reinforce the partial products method for multiplication. Let's get started with our warm-up. For today's warm-up, you are going to estimate the product, and you also need to write a number model to show how you estimated. Remember, we want to make sure that we have at least one easy number to help us multiply. Go ahead and try this now. For the first one, we could estimate 9 times 18 to be 9 times 20, which we can do in our heads. 9 times 2 is 18, and add on a 0 because there's one 0. For 11 times 42, we could round 11 to 10 and 42 to 40, so 10 times 40 equals 1 times 4 is 4, and then we have 2 zeros, so 400. And finally, we could round 22 to 20 and 76 to 80. We can do 2 times 8 equals 16, and we've got 2 zeros to add on, so 1,600. Go ahead and erase your boards, and we'll get started on the next set. So for 28 times 49, we know that 28 is close to 30, so we could round it to 30 times 49 is close to 50. 3 times 5 is 15, and we need to add on our 2 zeros, 1,500. 53 could be rounded to 50. 78 could be rounded to 80. 5 times 8 is 40. And then we have to add on our 2 zeros. So 4,000. And 63 times 63 could be rounded to 60 times 60. 6 times 6 is 36. And we've got 2 zeros. 3,600. Go ahead and erase your boards, and we'll get started on the last set. Remember, we want to keep it simple, so for the first number, it would probably be best to round to the nearest 10, and for the second number to the nearest 100. For 81 times 119, we can round 81 to 80, and 119 to 100. 8 times 1 is 8, and we have 1, 2, 3 zeros. So 8,000. 45 could be rounded to 50, and 188 could be rounded to 200. 5 times 2 is 10, and we still have to add our 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3. 10,000. And 72 times 414 could be rounded to 70 times 400. 7 times 4 is 28, and we have our 3 zeros we have to add. So 28,000. You can erase your board and set it to the side. We can now open our math journals to page 268, and we're going to look at the math message at the top of the page. It says, Tony has 8 blocks. Each block is 1.2 centimeters high. If she stacks the blocks, what will be the height of the stack? I would like you to work with your math partner and try to figure out the best way you know how to figure out this problem. Go ahead and do that now. What are some ways that we figured out how to do this problem? Some of you might have used repeated addition and added up 1 2/10 8 times to get the answer of 9.6 centimeters. Others of you might have tried to multiply 1.2 times 8. If you multiplied for this problem, how did you figure out where the decimal place went? How did you know that the answer was not 0.96 or 96? How did you know it was 9.6 centimeters? We know that 1.2 is less than 2, and if we multiplied 2 times 8, that would only get us 16, so 96 would not be a reasonable answer. And also, We know that 1.2 is greater than 96 hundredths, so if we're multiplying 1 and 2/10 times 8, couldn't be that answer, so we knew it had to be 9.6. Today in this lesson, you're going to learn to find the product of decimals by multiplying the numbers as if they were whole numbers, and then using estimation to place the decimal point in the answer. Let's get started by practicing estimating products. There are 3 problems up on the board that are very similar right now. I would like you and your math partner to work to estimate each product. You may use your whiteboard to do this work. Just as we did in our warm-up, we can estimate 11 times 2.8 is close to 11 times 3, which would be 33. We could do the same thing with 110 times 3, which would be 330. And we could do the same with 11 times 3/10, which would be 3 and 3/10. So we just found an estimated answer for each of these problems. Which problem would be most likely to have the answer of 30 and 8/10? If you said it was the first one, you would be correct. How do you know that it would be the closest to that one? Great. Let's look at another problem together. For this first problem, 110 times 2 and 8/10, I would like you to turn and talk with your math partner about where the decimal place would go in the answer and how you would know it would go there. If you said it would go after the 8, you are correct. Now let's look at the next one, 11 times 28 hundredths. Turn and talk again with your math partner about where the decimal place would go now and how you know it would go there. If you said it would go between the 3 and the 0, you are correct. Now let's take a look at problem 1 on page 268 together. It says Devin measured the length of the room by pacing it off. The length of his pace was 2.3 feet. I'm going to underline that. He counted 14 paces. How long is the room? In order to figure out this problem, there are 3 steps that we can use to help us. The first is estimate the product. Well, I know that I have to multiply 2.3 times 14. And I know 2.3 or 2 and 3/10 is close to 2. And I can do 2 times 14 in my head. So I can estimate 2 times 14 is about 28. The next step says multiply the factors as though they were whole numbers. So I can take my 2.3 and instead of that I'll just write 23 times 14. I'm going to do that over here where I have a little more room. And I can do my 4 times 3 is 12. Put down the 2, carry the 1 up. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. I'll put my 0 here, and now I'm going to do my other ones. So 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 2 is 2, and then I'll add them together to get 322. And I can write that over here so I can see it a little more easily. And now our last step says use the estimate to place the decimal point in the answer. So I have 322, but I don't know that that's necessarily correct. Looking up here, I estimated the product should be about 28. So where should I place the decimal? You're correct, it should go between the 2 and the 2. So I know that Devin's room is about 32 and 2/10 feet. Today you'll be doing more problems using these 3 important steps. So again, first you're going to estimate the product, then you're going to multiply the factors as though they were whole numbers, and finally you're going to use your estimate to place the decimal point in the answer. Everybody should now have their learning journeys out. Make sure you have the date written up at the top. Then for today we can check off mental math. We are going to be doing Math Journal page 268 and 269, evens only this time. Make sure you have finished math boxes 9.7 and 9.8. And instead of playing over and up squares, if you get finished, you can play fraction percent concentration. Then, if you're finished with all of that, Activity B is Unit 9 and 10 Blend Space Practice H. Activity C is going to do comparing products first, which is Math Masters page 388, and then Units 9 and 10 Blend Space Practice H. Make it a great day.